Hi, and welcome to this super fun episode of the Holy Misfits. We're going to talk about grief. I'm Jess.
I'm Alex.
Let's talk about grief.
I think it's weird that you had to double say grief there. Like, let's talk about grief after saying intimacy.
Yeah, it's compound grief. That's what we'll talk about.
I don't know if I prepared anything. Actually, I didn't prepare anything, but
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, this is a lived experience, so I don't know if we'll have a lot of preparation needed.
No, we have both experienced grief recently, kind of on both sides of our family, and grief is just kind of a really sucky thing to deal with, but at the same time, it can be really eye-opening, I guess, like in a sense of like realizing some things that you didn't quite realize beforehand and stuff. But like, there's this quote, and I don't know who says it. And a lot of times, if you look it up, a lot of people try and say it's C.S. Lewis, but it's not C.S. Lewis. And you try to look up even more, and basically, it doesn't have like an actual like specified like this person said it first or whatever. But the quote is that I sat with my anger long enough to find out that its real name was grief, and that's kind of really hit me hard as like learning and processing through grief recently a little bit, and kind of having some anger over some things, like losing a family member so young, and struggling to realize like why, like and not understanding why I was angry and upset about the loss of this life. And I mean, it sounds dumb to say it that way, to say like that I didn't understand.
Well, it feels like an injustice.
Yeah, and I know that I'm upset because I just lost and in my case it was my uncle.
Yeah.
And my uncle has always been like my mentor. I lived with my uncle and aunt for when I went to college for 2 years, and kind of was integrated into their family. And my uncle and I have always been super close, and to the point where like we have so many different things in common. Like we talk about music, and we talk about just like anything, everything. Like we just have so much in common. And so even now, like I'll hear a cool song or something like that, and I'll be like, oh, I want to share this with him. And I'm like, get frustrated because I'm like, I can't. I get excited about things that I want to talk about, and I'm looking to talk to him about or ask him questions or different things like that, and I can't. And it kind of has made me upset and angry a little bit. And it kind of was like, why, just kind of figuring this out, like why was I kind of feeling that anger or whatever. And it's like kind of realizing that it's most likely grief.
Yeah.
And so
you also learn so much about yourself when you're grieving too. Like it's something that no one really expects for the most part to happen, and then when it happens, you don't know how you're going to react, and then you realize that the person that you lost is actually, they brought out something in you that is now gone too. That's something I've realized. Like we just lost my dad not that long ago. He he was so lively and vibrant and social and just like the definition of alive. I feel like. And he went from that to getting a really intense diagnosis, and just a month later pretty much was gone, and went from alive to frail, and my mind still cannot catch up to that. And like you just realize how much of that person affected your life in such a big way, and then when they're gone you're like, oh, that part of me is also gone, and just kind of reconciling. So it's almost like even more grief on top of that, because you're grieving now this piece of yourself in a sense, and this piece of maybe something that you used to do together.
that's interesting you said it. So like I don't have any facts for you guys. I didn't prep for tonight too much, to be honest. We usually don't because it's usually more of just a conversation that we're having. But
Yeah.
grief is something that so I lost my uncle in August of 2025, and so now we're sitting here in 2026, and I'm still processing some things and still going through things. And so it's been a topic for me that I've looked into and stuff like that. But there's a study in neuroscience that talks about like when someone dies, a part of your brain dies with them, and it's because the wiring that your brain has that takes itself through a path with this person is no longer there because that person is no longer there, and so that part of your brain starts to shut down because it is literally saying like, hey, like this road is unusable, and so it starts to shut those parts of your brain down. And it's really interesting that there's this study from neuroscience that's saying that now because one of the hardest and coolest quotes and like one of the things that's really important to me, sorry, let me sidetrack this to explain this, but one of the biggest things that's important to me is fellowship, and not just like hanging out with people, but like having that type of friendship that lasts.
Good community.
Not just that, I mean, not even community. I'm talking about like friendship that's like those people who are like, we jokingly call them like our best friends or whatever, but it's like the people who you can count on, and even like they're the people who you forgive any wrong they do, but at the same time, you know that they'll forgive any wrong of you. And they're the people who you can rely on for everything. You can call them and ask them for anything, and they'll do everything they can to help you. It's just the people who they're an extension of you. Um, and that has always been something important to me is like understanding that type of friendship, that the deep rooted ties that bind people together. Um, Tolkien has a really cool quote, and it's not even a quote. He says he was being interviewed about the loss of his friends during World War II, and he's talking about how like in the same in the same thought process of that neuroscience study of like when someone dies, it's like part of your brain dies with them. And he talks about that. It's like I have lost a part of my friends because that part of my friend will never be there again. And he kind of goes on to express it like when this friend makes a joke with this friend about something that they always joke about, like, and that friend's no longer alive, like they don't make that joke anymore. And because they don't make that joke, like I don't have that association with them. And so then I don't joke back and poke fun because of this anymore, because that whole person is gone. And because they're gone, there's nowhere for that to go.
It's a ripple effect.
Yeah. Um, and it makes it a deep impact or a wound in my heart to think about those things because I, I feel the loss of that person. I feel the loss of my uncle. I feel the loss of your dad. Like when there's things or moments that have happened and come up, and I want to reach out and talk to them, you know. And I don't have someone to reach out and talk to anymore. There's nowhere for me um, to call and joke with or to talk to about certain things.
Yeah. And we've experienced since our son got sick, we have not been able to catch a break. And I learned, I think it was late last year, talking to your aunt, like we were both talking about how we learned that that was called compound grief, and it was like, oh goody, this is like it's cool to know things like that, but at the same time, knowing something like that, you're like, oh great, thanks for that, because you don't want to be experiencing it. But we went through this really just traumatic. Yeah, those words are gross together. Traumatic medical extreme thing with our son where he was literally fighting for his life, and we were blessed to have an amazing team of doctors who were fighting just as hard as we were. But it was a really, really hard journey that I do not wish on anyone. I never want to do that again.
Yeah.
And then we got released from the hospital because we were quite literally living in the hospital. And during that time, when we would come home, I would feel it in my body. Like, even if my mind wasn't thinking about it, we would get released home for maybe a weekend, and we would drop our stuff because there's no point in unpacking. We'd turn on the TV and I would just feel it. My body would feel so incredibly heavy, and it's unlike any kind of fatigue I've ever felt before in my life. Like, it's like the COVID fatigue on steroids. Your body
The
your body
COVID fatigue. I've never heard someone say COVID fatigue
well, now
before.
you have.
Oh
But it's like your body is like, finally we can breathe for a minute, but then it just doesn't stop. It's like all the rest that you needed to be taking that you weren't taking because you were so stressed all hits you at once, and it's like, okay, now's the time. But the problem with that was it would only be for like a day or two, or maybe a day and a half. We would be at home, then go right back up on our almost 2 hour drive to Portland, and your body is like still in rest mode, and you're trying to fight it because you're like, we have to fight. Like, we're pretty much in a war now. Like, you go from rest to war, rest to war. And my body would just feel it. And even when we rang the bell, he was done with cancer, and everybody was like congratulating us. I was not prepared for what I felt. I didn't feel happy, like, yay, we did it. I thought that I would feel that way, but instead I felt this like grief of like our time was just stolen, and it wasn't anyone's fault or anything like that. It was just cancer sucks. It stole a chunk of our life. It stole vital milestones with our son that we didn't get to have. Um, and I just found myself in this deep state of grief that I don't think people knew how to help me with, because they were like, why are you sad? Like, you should be feeling great. And I think that's why it's also important to sit with people where they're at, even if we don't understand what they're going through. And we're not always meant to understand, like, just sitting with someone, listening to their story. But people just didn't get it unless they had gone through it, unfortunately.
I think it also comes back to the fact that we didn't know what we needed either, though.
Yeah.
Not to discount anything you're saying, because I think you're right, and I do think that a lot of people didn't know how to be there or show up. And by the way, telling people I didn't reach out to you because I didn't want to overwhelm you is the most bull crap excuse you can give to anyone. And I'm just calling you out right now. If there's someone in your life that is going through stuff and you're just like, oh, I don't want to overwhelm them, or I don't want to add to that, stop. Like, you doing that is literally hurting them more than it is an inconvenience to reach out to them and check on them, because I'm telling you, probably 10 out of 10, those people are waiting and wishing that someone would just reach out and just ask them how they're doing and tell them that they love you, or to tell them that you love them.
Yeah.
And that you're here for them. Like, even those simple words are so much. And the amount of times that we had heard people say, well, I didn't want to overwhelm you, or I didn't want to add
like,
to the,
please overwhelm me.
yeah. And instead it just created isolation.
Yeah.
Isolation, compared with, or compounded with grief, is
not fun.
I wouldn't even say, I would just say it's just awful.
Yeah.
It's an awful feeling, because you just feel so devastated and destroyed, and then now you have no comfort because people are trying to be respectful and not overwhelm you, but in doing so they're leaving you out like in the cold with nothing. And so yeah, don't hesitate to reach out to the people in your life that are hurting or going through stuff. Just
even if you don't know what to do, that's totally okay.
Yeah. And again, like, we've talked about this, and when we talked about like and I still don't know what better to call it other than the ministry of hospitality, like, or not hospitality.
You said presence last time.
Yeah, I don't know why I said hospitality.
I don't know either.
But the ministry of presence, and that's a hot topic for me too. But the ministry of presence is so undervalued and important, and I think it plays a bigger role in grief than anything else, because the best thing you can do with someone who's sitting in grief is just sit with them.
Yeah.
And it's not to have fancy words or anything like that. Um, Having the right thing to say doesn't really matter all the time, because sometimes there's just no right thing to say. Sometimes it's just being present. It's sitting with the people you love and just letting them lay on you or lean on you or talk to you. And
Yeah, so we were going through like that up and down roller coaster. We finally got released. I felt like this weird grief that I've never felt. We were both traumatized and trying to pick up our life again, but you can't really pick up from where you left off. So it's like trying to make a new life in the place that you originally left to go through this traumatic thing. Um, so in the process of that, I kept thinking, oh, our lives will be more relaxed and normal and not full of trauma. And then everything just kind of went terrible again. And your uncle passed unexpectedly. And my dad wasn't that far later. It was like he went into the ER just in August for something that he was like, oh, it's probably no big deal, but I just feel off. And his diagnosis was really similar to our son's. And that to me has been so hard to process, because with our son, we had a great team. Like we really fought for a long time. Um, and he got better. And I look back at the pictures of him sick and I don't feel sad, because I'm like, look, I'm just like, look at what we accomplished and we made it. But with my dad, he did not have a great team. He was older, so it's not like with our son, he like we're the parents, so we get the say. We get to tell the doctors what to do. With my dad, it wasn't that dynamic. And we've lived through good doctors and bad doctors, and we know the difference. And to just like see the outcome be so opposite has been really hard for my brain to wrap around, because in my head I'm like, this doesn't make sense. He should have made it somehow, but that's not what happened. And just trying to reconcile with the reality of what actually did happen.
I think the hardest part about the two is just like, um, with your dad, just feeling like we wanted so desperately to advocate and to push and to fight, and just feeling like we couldn't as much because we weren't his parents. Like, ironically, he's your parent,
Yeah.
but like we still tried to do what we could and how we could, but it's very different. It's a very different dynamic, and yeah, losing your dad was really hard. Um, he is Your dad is the most ridiculously awesome
Yeah.
person. Just like, he's so
Crazy. He's a crazy guy.
he's just absolutely unhinged and has no
Yeah.
filter for what he's going to say. And it's pretty cringy sometimes, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it was absolutely awesome and unapologetically him. And I miss him a lot. And I loved talking to your dad and joking around with stuff. And um,
You could never tell him that you needed anything, even just casually, like, oh, I need sleep or whatever it was, because he'd show up and be like, okay, let's get you the thing that you need. And you're like, whoa, what? He was always just there. Like, it didn't matter if he was not having a good day. Like, you would never know that he wasn't having a good day. That also was, I think, really hard, because he went from that personality type to all of a sudden he was having lots of bad days and you could see it. And my dad never really let us see that side of him that much. So that was really hard. And I watched my dad die, which really messed me up, I think. Like we tried to watch like a zombie show or like shows where there's some sort of death happening, and I just was like, no, can't do it, because that, like, I've seen death before, but watching the whole process right in front of me, and like, I spent that night at my parents' house and it was just right in my face. Um, just really changes you.
yeah, Death is a tricky and weird thing to process and deal with, and there's a lot of different spectrums to view it upon. You know, whether you're religious or not, and whether you believe in the afterlife or not, or all those other things and factors kind of play into like how you process and handle and manage it. But one of the things that I've learned about grief also that is difficult because it's so much of a waves thing, right? So like
Yeah,
grief never hits in like one moment and it's just done, right?
I
It's not how,
wish.
and it doesn't just like settle in and it's like just grief, 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 grief. It's literally like this rolling tide of just like it hits and this massive amount of like pain and tears and sadness and all this other stuff, and then it like recedes, and then it comes, and then it
Yeah,
goes. And one of the reasons why I think it is like that is because they say that grief is all the love you have for someone with nowhere for it to go because they're no longer here to receive it. And so I think it hits so much like that because every time our hearts want to express love for the person who's no longer here because we get excited or we do that and we want to engage and we want our energy and our emotions and our love to be expressed for them, and then all of a sudden it comes up short and it comes up lacking. um, it's just difficult to process. I think it's one of those things that that's the reason why grief takes so long to process.
I think it breathes with you, like the tide analogy, like going back and forth, like it's taking a breath, and it becomes part of your life. It doesn't always have to be a heavy part of your life, like those memories, those thoughts of the person will always be there. But it really does become part of you, just like breathing, I think. I used to think before had ever experienced something like this that grief was just like this 24/7 heaviness that was like this. And then, like, one day you just snap out of it, which is not
Mm.
realistic at all. It's very much not realistic, but I used to just I'd see people grieving and I'd be like, "Oh, they'll snap out of it one day." I was also a kid, so that it's like they'll figure it out. But that's also been another hard thing is our son's 3 and he was so close to my dad, and just trying to navigate that with him because there are times where he very much misses my dad, and he has all these feelings that he doesn't know where to put, and trying to explain that to him has been really hard.
Yeah, like I said, when I got to speak at his funeral, like those words, like "go see Papa with a tractor," have never been such joyful words. And, so sorrowful at the same time to hear him say that, and trying to explain to him that he's gonna have to wait a while before he gets to ride with Papa on a tractor again has been so difficult to process with a 3-year-old.
Yeah,
I think it's difficult for us to process, but it's something that we're able to navigate because um, we've kind of, in a sense, formed or developed our emotions and our feelings and things a little better at 3 years
yeah,
old when he doesn't understand all of his emotions and he's still learning and trying to understand or figure out his emotions. Like I think it's hard for him to regulate and understand what grief is and what it means to miss Papa with a tractor.
yeah,
Um, because he was telling me the other day, he said he's like, I miss Papa with a tractor. Like, yeah, buddy, I do too. And then he asked me when are we going to see him again, and trying to explain to him that not for a long time, and he was not happy with that. Like he didn't cry, he didn't anything. He's just like, no. I was like, yeah, it's gonna be a long time before we get to see him. He's like, no, and trying to walk that through with a 3-year-old is difficult, but he is very cute, and he is surprising me with how much he can show empathy
yeah,
in this situation, and just how loving our son can be throughout all this thing. But one of the things I wanted to speak to too is like where you talked about earlier, but I never got to comment on it. But when you're talking about like the way it feels like everything goes in the midst of like these hardship moments, it's like you're in this fight or flight mentality, and you are like getting through it, and you are dealing with the issues, and you're taking care of stuff that needs to get taken care of, and all of a sudden you get this moment of rest, and it's like you sit down and you take a breath, and it's literally that, like, and it feels like on the exhale, like it just feels like everything is finally dropped off of you, and
Yeah.
because all the weight is gone, because everything like that's off of you, it's like you give in to that exhaustion that you didn't even realize you had, and it's like this wall hits you, and um, all the things that you're thinking, like, yeah, I've been managing this well, I've been processing this well, I've been getting through this well, and then all of a sudden you're like, why am I breaking down crying? Why am I
Yeah.
overwhelmed right now in this moment? Why do I feel everything so much? Why am I exhausted? It's because that's grief,
Your
and
body
you're,
will tell you you're grieving even when your mind isn't thinking about it.
yeah,
Like when I was better at doing Pilates, but my body's just been like one health issue after another, which I'm pretty positive is a result of stress and grieving. Um, I was doing Pilates and I could feel in my body where the tension was and where I was like carrying all this weight. But doing that, for anybody who wants like some kind of thing to help, that did help me. I felt like release tension and just bad heaviness. You're like, I'm not gonna do, I'm not gonna
no.
do Pilates.
Well, it's
It's
not
fine.
that. It's not that. It's just that's not for me. Like
Yeah, that's
where I
fine.
was at. Like you and I were in very different places with that. Like for me, it's like I just needed to like sleep. To be honest, like
Yeah,
once I released all of that tension stuff, like I was able to actually breathe and relax. And it's like then it was like rest. Like, and it was like you said, it wasn't enough time. It didn't feel like it, but like
mm,
every minute or moment of that rest was great. But it's like you feel like you unload this entire huge heavy burden, and yeah, it just kind of catches up to you and slams into you, and it kind of knocks on your butt, and you're like, whoa, that just happened. But
I've been feeling that after my dad passed. It's just been hitting me, and it's like you can't even really fight it. Like if you try and fight it, you're just exhausted the whole day. And then when you crash, it's just like all the tiredness in the world hits you.
yeah. One of the things I've noticed though is that talking about grief, it helps me. It feels like it helps me set free from grief.
Yeah,
And so, like, one of the things I wanted to encourage with you guys is this: is if you want, engage with us in this, like, talk to us, like, share your grief with us, and like, we've shared a little bit of our grief with you guys here, but we would love to get into more conversations. So, like, leave a comment or a message to us or whatever, and we'll get back to you. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your stories of grief, how you handled, how you processed the grief that you went through, all that stuff. Like, we would just love to hear from you guys and see. I don't think there's a one size fits all
yeah,
anything with grief, and so but yeah, I mean, one, I don't want you to have to carry that burden alone. So I encourage you guys to come and unload your burdens here with us, and talk to us. Like, we're not perfect, and we might not always know what to say or how to help you, but sometimes just being present, like I said, is hugely important to us. And so even if you just need to vent and rant to us, like we'll be present, we'll be listening, and we'll give you guys a safe space to be able to share and talk. And so, yeah, so please leave us a comment with your experience with grief, um, ways of processing grief, things like that. Yeah, I mean, we just love to hear from you guys, and we just want to encourage you guys to not weather it alone.
yeah,
One thing I can tell you is grief and depression share in common isolation, and isolation will never help you in either of those facets, whether you're fighting or deal with depression or anxiety, or you're fighting with grief. um, Isolation will never be the fix. It will only drag you deeper and deeper down, um, into despair. And I mean, there's not a better word that I can use for that. So don't be in despair. Instead, even if it's uncomfortable and even if it feels forced, talk about it, share it, own it, Like don't hide from it. Don't be ashamed of it. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Um,
I think there's so many different ways to deal with grief. Writing really helps me, whether it's music or just writing anything. um, Helps me organize my thoughts and to get things out and to be like, this is what I'm thinking and feeling, and this is why. But there's so many things out there, whether it's surrounding yourself with people and talking about it. That's kind of a universal one. Like, there's just figure out what helps you and do it.
yeah. And sometimes it's weird, but sometimes sharing with a complete stranger what you're going through is easier than someone you're actually really close to. So
Yeah.
don't limit yourself to sharing with only one group or the other. But I do one thing that I've always believed and thought is like if you can find three good friends, like people who like are your ride or dies, for lack of a better word, but they're like those lifelong friends that like are never gonna falter or fall apart. Like find those people, and even if you don't talk to them every day, like those are the people who you can go to and lean on. And I've been lucky enough to find some people like that in my life that are like my go to, like the people that I rely on or trust with everything, and sometimes just for lack of better words, word vomiting at them is therapeutic in itself. And I've got friends where I have to be careful with that though, because if I verbal vomit to them and I'm like, oh man, this thing's happening, they're like, all right, let's go fight. And I'm like, what? No. And they're like, yeah, it's like, you don't deserve this. And they want to fight on my behalf. And I'm like, and it's amazing to have that support. But I will be honest, I've not always had that. And it is something that takes getting used to. And it requires you to be vulnerable and it requires you to show up and support other people and put their needs a lot first and stuff like that, and finding the right kind of people who are going to give back the same that you give to them. But um,
My dad had a quote about friends.
I know,
Do you remember it?
yeah.
What is it? I can't remember it.
He used to say the same thing. Like if you can find three good friends, you found a treasure for life.
Yeah.
That's where I got that from. I used to always think five good friends, like because when
Yeah.
I was a kid, I was like five good friends, and I remember talking to your dad about it. He was like, I'd be lucky to have three, and
Yeah. He was so awesome because he genuinely really loved people and pretty much everybody was his friend.
yeah,
He was just like always making new friends. Like you're in Costco and you're like, where did he go? And he's out
yeah,
making a friend somewhere, and you're like, what?
yeah.
What are you doing, man?
My uncle, who passed away recently, used to tell me a story about one of his best friends growing up, named Travis, and Travis would literally just show up at his house, like bang on the door, be like 8 a.m. and he'd be like bang, 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 and my uncle was like, "Oh, who's knocking on my door at 8 a.m.?" and he'd get mad. And be angry, and he'd go open the door, and all of a sudden Travis would be standing there with like two bags of groceries, and he'd just walk in, and he'd be like, "Go get dressed and get in the shower, go get ready. I'm gonna make breakfast." And my uncle was like, you can't just. And he's like, dude, just go get in the shower. I'm making breakfast. And like my uncle said, he'd be sitting in the shower and getting ready. He'd be like, oh, angry. He's like, I just want to sleep in. It's my day off. And I said, angry, but and he's like, then you turn around the corner, and all of a sudden, Travis had made this huge breakfast, and they'd eat breakfast, and he's like, okay, Travis, all right, now that you've eaten and now that you're ready for the day, let's go. And like all of a sudden, it was just like they would either take off and go do something, or he'd be like, all right, well, I'm going home now, and just kind of leave Derek, my uncle, with that. And it always makes me laugh to think about that. I'm like, dude, I wish I had a friend like that, and I wish I could be that kind of person. But times are so different. Like if you come banging on my door at any hour, I'm gonna open the door and be there for you. But dude, if you're coming to bang on my door at 8 a.m. to bring breakfast, like I'll go out to breakfast with you, but I don't want you banging in my house at 8 a.m. to make breakfast and make a mess in my kitchen. Like,
I don't want you going.
no, like, but I love the sentiment, or I love the idea behind it, though. Like, I love the idea of just like unapologetically showing up in someone's life and
Yeah.
being there, and like that's the kind of the friendship I strive for, and I want to be a friend like that for other people. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I think it'd be fun to just show up at someone's house someday. Like, as much as I hate the idea of someone doing that to me, like showing up at someone's house and be like, all right, I brought you breakfast. Let's do something. Like, let's spend time together. Like, um, I just love the idea of that, like that close knit friendship of just like not having to ask for permission or not having to okay it first, but just to give permission to someone else to be so integrated into your life. Um, the last thing I wanted to share, and then I don't really have anything else to add right now, but um, I really liked the guy who did the homily for my uncle at his funeral.
Yeah.
One of the things he said was like a lot of people will live their life, and then when they get to the end of their life, people will struggle to write a eulogy about them because they don't know what to say or what to include or different things like that. So, but then there's the type of men who live knowing what they want their eulogy to be, what they want to be remembered for, and because they've set those goals, they live to fulfill that. And I think that's been a challenge for me since for the last few months now. Just as I've been thinking about it, it's like, what do I want to be remembered for? What do I want people to think about? What do I want people to feel the impact of me from at my death? And so because I've been asking those questions, I want to start changing the way I live my life to align with those goals or those things. And so um, it's been interesting to see how grief has impacted my life at this point.
Yeah.
But it's kind of given me the drive to want to show up and be better and not just hope that one day when I die that someone will speak well of me. I want to live a life that's worthy of having good things spoken of me. And I really honestly feel like that's how my uncle lived his life. And that's how I want to live my life. I want to live my life that is fulfilling and rich and it isn't lacking. I want to be a good husband to you and a good dad to our father, or a good. I want to be a good husband to you, and I want to be a good father to our son. I want to be a good son to my parents, and I want to be a good brother to my brothers, and uh, I want to be a good friend. Like that's how I want to be remembered above anything and everything else. So I want to live with those things in mind, and those are the goals I want to achieve.
That's cool. I didn't even know that you were thinking about any of this.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's definitely something that I think I want to, not with the husband part, but
Well, I hope you'd want me to be a good husband.
No, I mean I don't want to be your husband, is what I was saying.
I know. I'll give you that time.
Like she's her own husband. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I think that's a really cool thing to think about.
Yeah. I love you.
Love you too.
This is your sappy 5 minutes on the couch with us.
That just sounds gross.
I said sappy. I didn't say intimate. That would have been gross.
Now you just said it. You just made it gross.
I think you made it gross by implying.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
People are gonna be like watching, listening to this, like, I'm tired of this. Like exit out of it.
I don't know about that. But I do want to exit out of this so I can be
okay.
on the couch with you for 5 minutes before I have to go pick up our son.
Okay. Bye.